Welcome to a special edition of Tanium Tech Talks today, created specifically for this conference. Today, we're going to be talking about Tanium as it relates to cyber resilience in a digital world. Welcome, everybody. My name is Alex Miller. I will be your host today. With me speaking today is Kyle Duar. Kyle, please introduce yourself.
Hey, good morning, Alex. Good morning, everyone. Kyle DeWar. I'm an executive client advisor with Tanium. Been with Tanium 6 years and recently completed service in the Marine Corps Reserves, retired after 35 and a half years in our beloved Corps. Excited to talk to you today, Alex, about how Tanium can help with cyber resilience in a digital world.
That's fantastic. And just to give a little bit of background on myself, I've been in the cyber realm for a little over a decade now. I've worked at military help desks, I've worked in federal agency security operations centers, even a brief stint at Geek Squad when I was a lot younger. So I've kind of been all around the spectrum of cyber. But Kyle, let's kick this off easy. What is Tanium? How does Tanium work?
That's a great question, Alex. Tanium is a unified platform used by federal agencies, and essentially Tanium empowers federal agencies to deliver centralized visibility with flexible control. We enable better outcomes at scale with speed, and we do that by combining real-time data with autonomous endpoint management. So with Tanium, sensors see things and packages do things, and by combining real-time visibility, we're going to get context that will allow us to automate, adapt, and it provides agility to meet any of the reporting or risk management needs across the federal government space.
Kyle, that's absolutely fantastic. Uh, so I've been here 5 years. You'd think that'd be enough time to learn everything there is to know, but there's always something new. There's always something exciting. My first experience with Tanium was actually when I was working as a cyber incident handler, a cyber analyst, and one day my boss walks over and he's like, here's your credentials, and boom, I had this new tool. All of a sudden, I could find hashes in real time in my environment from any machine that had the client. And this was years ago. So things change so rapidly, Moore's law. How about something new we've been talking about? What is autonomous endpoint management? What is Tanium AEM?
Autonomous endpoint management starts with the unified platform, that single view into your digital estate. Sensors see things, packages do things, but we're going to wrap those packages and sensors with intelligent automation to drive endpoint operations and cybersecurity. So we're going to start with Automate, which is low-code workbooks that allow you to develop triggers and controls to automate simple and complex tasks. We're going to allow you to enumerate your environment or partition your environment into rings or groups so that as you deploy change into your environment, you can develop those rules and triggers, apply those rules and triggers as you introduce change progressively throughout your environment. This allows you to see the success or challenges of your actions and, and allow you to adapt those actions based on real world conditions. Again, real-time data is integral to this intelligent operations. Lastly, throughout the process, we're going to give you visualizations that will pull different sensors from different places within the platform to present meaningful, insightful information that is actionable, that is helpful, that allows you to achieve your outcomes. Ultimately, like all customers want safe, strategic rollouts of their capabilities, whether it's a new browser software, whether it's making sure your security tools are ready for ready, configured properly, updated. Throughout the autonomous endpoint management platform, we're going to allow you to see more, do more at speed with scale with intelligence to make sure it's safe and effective for your environment.
Kyle, that was eloquently put. Thank you so much. And forgive me, I'm a security-minded person. Cyber defense was the greatest job I ever had. I absolutely loved it. And it's you're very much making it sound like Tanium is a force multiplier, right? And that was my biggest concern always as a cyber defender is reducing mean time to remediation, increasing lethality, right? To speak from our military backgrounds, increasing lethality is a metaphor. And it definitely sounds like I could use Tanium even today to discover assets, remediate vulnerabilities, monitor lateral movement risks in real time while monitoring cybersecurity readiness and resilience. And so Tanium autonomous endpoint management, it sounds fantastic. It's exciting, it's powerful, and the topic of today's conversation is cyber resilience in a digital world. So recently, very exciting. I got to see a preview. It's a product that's already out about our Tanium Ask agent. I know it was released just this past week as of recording, and it absolutely blew me away with its capabilities. As a cyber defender, I never felt like I had enough uh, power in my tools or knowledge or even bodies to get stuff done, and I needed that force multiplier, something to increase my efficiency, right? So I know this Tanium Mask agent. I know that it leverages AI. AI seems to be infiltrating every part of our world right now. And, whether I mean, I've used it to finish code or finish emails or write summaries, things like that. And I absolutely know it's going to play a huge part in this topic. Kyle, can you tell us a little bit more about Tanium AEM and how it leverages AI as it correlates to cyber resiliency and agentic AI?
Sure. Yeah, so let me start off with sort of at the AI 101 level. Um, and I'm not going to hit like all aspects of AI, but uh, essentially, when we look at artificial intelligence and how we can apply it, it can be descriptive, what is. It could be prescriptive, what should I do? And then it could be predictive, what's going to happen. What we see within our platform is an opportunity to use generative AI. So generative AI uh, will have prompts and it'll produce outcomes based on those prompts and then your large language model. So if you look within the Tanium domain, a generative AI solution would be Tanium Ask. And Tanium Ask would allow you to learn things about your environment, your endpoints that are at risk or that are healthy or that need attention um, through a prompt. And so essentially that's the Tanium Ask prompt. The other aspect of artificial intelligence, and again, this isn't comprehensive, this is just focused on how Tanium is approaching artificial intelligence.
Of course.
You mentioned agentic AI, and agentic AI has the attribute of agency, which is essentially uh, AI capabilities that are independent, maybe outcome focused. Um, the agentic AI approach, it still uses an element of reason. So the technology will reason through certain scenarios, but we're going to feed that reason with real-time data, and we're going to connect that reason with easy actions. One example could be you're looking at a Tanium dashboard, and the Tanium dashboard will show compliance posture. How many of my endpoints are full disk encrypted, or how many of my endpoints have my firewall properly configured, or how many endpoints are running an older version of my security tools, whether it be CrowdStrike or Microsoft Defender, um, and so the agentic AI will call out those deficiencies and create an awareness that allows you to act to fix that issue quickly, or we can automate that workflow. Um, so our Tanium's the AEM platform is an intelligence capability, and the way we enable that intelligence is through the backend enablers, Tanium Guide, adaptive actions, um, and Guardian, and we'll show each of those here in a few minutes. But we're bringing all those advanced intelligence capabilities to complement our agentic AI approach, which is essentially enabling agency, so independence within the platform to see things, to do things, and to encourage operators like yourself to take the right action at the right time to achieve the right outcomes.
That sounds incredible. So this keeps making me think back to, I worked at the time in a deep dark basement for cyber defense. I was working with a gentleman named Zach, and he taught me everything I knew about cyber defense, but he would spend so much time setting up definitions, right? So we would receive all of this data from data lakes, but that had to be correlated into ways that we could easily determine whether or not it was even something worth looking at, right? And that was a singular human trying to determine this for so much data. And it sounds like this, in order to, not to harken back to the topic, but to bolster uh, cyber resiliency in the digital world, we are reducing the the risk of human error while introducing a little bit of automation AI to improve our defense as a whole, to bolster our defenses, right? To make the job easier. It's a hard job. So, Kyle, we've been talking about AEM, we've been talking about AI, we've been talking about Tanium. What do you got to show me today?
Sure. Let's what one thought on that cyber defenders have a tough role, right? And if you look at one of the outcomes of an autonomous endpoint management platform is that we're going to shift the activity, shift the awareness left of bang. And that proactive nature of knowing something is before knowing something will break before it actually breaks, that left of bang approach allows you to build resilience into your environment because you're fixing problems before users are aware of them, or you're fixing problems before adversaries can exploit them. And so being that proactive posture really does a lot to ensure uh, the systems are properly configured and they're properly operating. So let's jump in the platform, and I'm going to assume that the audience today is not they've not seen Tanium before. So we're just going to start off with sort of quickly a couple basics, some of Tanium's stronger points, and then we'll get into the scenario we talked about, which will center on how do we take different Tanium capabilities and bring them together. So let's first we have our console here. Let me just get my mouse over to the right area, and let's start off with just a simple question. So I want to get computer name
I
and
still remember the first time that I got to play around in a Tanium console, and I know this isn't what we're talking about today, but Tanium asked this natural language parser we use. I couldn't believe how easy it was for me to just start gathering information about the environment, right, without having to know a proprietary syntax language or something like that. Sorry, Kyle.
no,
Please keep.
no, it's a great comment, and the natural language parser, and you can kind of see this actually uses Tanium Ask, and so it's sort of looking at all the sensors, and what we have here, the sensors are computer name, Windows OS release ID, and then is Windows, and so those are our sensors for this particular question. We're gonna go through and ask us of our environment. And right away, we're going to get back a listing of what we asked for, a computer name and the Windows OS release ID. Now, if I want to go in, maybe I want to get details on a particular endpoint, I can go in and view these details. Think of this as like your FISMA, your data. So I'm going to get the computer name and the characteristics that you would have in a FISMA report. But what I can also do is I can check a box and I can now deploy an action. And this is the power of a unified platform. So I'm seeing something, and now I'm doing something. I'll show a little more detail on that, but we've got a list of packages that are all already out of the box, ready to go. We also help customers create their own packages. Go back to the home screen. So that is, in essence, when we talk about sensors seeing things and packages doing things, that's in a sense what Tanium is. But we also have sensors that, as we deploy the platform, we've got a an ecosystem out there with endpoints. And again, Tanium, the difference for Tanium is that we start at the endpoint and go backwards. And so our content that runs on the endpoint is collecting data, and the platform is able to compare what exists on the endpoints that are part of that Tanium enclave with other environments. We call this a benchmarking, and you can kind of see this is our demonstration environment. So obviously, it's going to have benchmarks that are bad. Well,
Hey,
within
uh,
benchmark, I'm
if
sorry,
I
go ahead,
can
Alex.
if I can interrupt you for just 1 second, and just to be clear, so you're saying, sensors see things, packages do things, but these aren't just Tanium specific sensors and packages, right? Customers can create essentially whatever they want.
They can, yes, and that's the either extensibility or adaptability of the Tanium platform.
That's
They can
incredible.
create a sensor or a package. They can assign, roles to that package so that it'll go be at the right place, the right time. And that package, there are ways where you can uh, maybe configure a sensor to harvest the data on a regular basis, which is what we're getting into here with dashboards. Um, but it allows you to see things, visualize the state of your environment. Uh, so again, we want that predict. We want the customers to know what's wrong with their environment before others know, right? And we want that rapid uh, assessment in this. Really, awareness drives resilience, right? It's hard to be resilient if you don't know what's going on. But that's a good question. So again, benchmark is just going to give you a relative comparison. It's relative in terms of there's endpoints in different ecosystems that have a certain compliance posture, and we're going to position your environment within those statistics, and we're going to show you some interesting diagrams. But what's really interesting within benchmark is if I go to our Tanium risk score. Now, at a high level, the Tanium risk score is a number between 0 and 1,000. 1,000, really bad. 0, really good. And we have different parts of the environment from our risk and compliance suite that will add to the tabulation of that risk score. Um, in the particular case that we're going to walk through today, um, we had an endpoint. We had an action in the platform that measurably changed the risk score. And so that risk score is right here. And this gets us into kind of an interesting aspect of the autonomous platform. So I'm going to talk about two things here, Guardian and Guide. So Guardian is going to be the capability where we will be alerted to emergent events. Think of, the event of the day. A common event that we see across federal government is the Windows 10 update requirements. And so what we can do is with Windows 10 into support coming, we can actually come into Guardian and we can open up a dashboard that will show us the details associated with the Windows 10 end of support. Now, there's some challenges that we see customers have, and we saw this probably about 18 months back. It's hard to when a technology goes end of support, uh, there's a need for time to be able to program resources to either pay for additional support or replace hardware that needs to be upgraded, and that's where this particular dashboard focuses. So we know the hardware requirements of Windows 11, right? But we don't know, or what we're learning through this dashboard is those endpoints that really can't be upgraded because they don't have the right memory, disk space, uh, CPU type make model might be outdated. And so the purpose of this dashboard is we're seeing all the things that we would want to see about that would indicate that I can't just upgrade this endpoint, I've got to replace it. And it's harder to replace an endpoint in an environment than to buy, to upgrade it sometimes. In this particular dashboard here, we're going to delve into it, We're going to actually see exactly why are these endpoints failing, right? And so that insight is it doesn't help you buy more computers, but it does help you plan. If you know the Windows 10 end of support date, you can backwards plan to say, all right, well, by this date, I need to replace these machines, or by this date, I need to have these machines. I need to mitigate that risk um, through either configuration or other means. So eh, that's like the Guardian piece. Let me pause there, Alex. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that Kyle, that absolutely makes sense to me. And now I'm thinking back to my help desk days where at the time we were switching to Windows 10, but
Right.
this would have been incredibly useful way back in the day. Um, and it would have saved so much time and headaches and heartache. Um, so we are talking about the DoD though. There's high priorities, there's low priorities. Um, this is a great use case. How can we utilize this to potentially remediate even bigger risks to our environments?
And that's a great question. And so that will take us into Tanium Guide. So I came back to this Tanium risk score dashboard, and the risk score here is 322 out of 1,000, which it could be good, it could be bad. Really, what's interesting is if that changes to 340 or if it changes to 200, that's where we want to notice those deviations or those changes to your risk score. So Tanium Guide will monitor the risk score, and if there's a change, it will alert us to that change. And so as we come up to in the top right, we're going to go to guidance, and we're just going to select all. And so this is Tanium Guide, and for this particular vignette, what we're going to look at is BitLocker unencrypted, right? That's kind of a data at rest policy. So FISMA requirement to encrypt all endpoint data. And so we can go into a dashboard. And in this particular case, if we had, let's say we were doing a replacement of Windows 10 endpoints with Windows 11, but we did not enable BitLocker encryption. So in that scenario, the risk score within benchmark would change. We would see that within guide, and we'd be able to identify, all right, what endpoints are not encrypted, and then take the appropriate action. But we talked earlier about the ability to see things with sensors and then do things with packages. So I could grab any one of these endpoints, I could come in to deploy an action, and then within my as I pivot from seeing to acting, I could put BitLocker here. And now I've got an array of capabilities that I can activate to ensure that that endpoint is fully protected. And so again, this illustrates the intelligence of the Tanium autonomous endpoint management platform, how we can make customer environments more resilient because we're moving from a reactive legacy approach to a left of bang, more proactive modern approach that uses an intelligent platform to drive actions through awareness.
Kyle, that's incredible. Just keep thinking back to my history and how useful these things would have been, and how beneficial it would have been for, like I said before, bolstering our defenses, being more proactive, getting things done with limited manning, because that's what everyone's going through right now. So, how about everything you've shown us today? All of these exciting features, all these exciting things. Is it all available for federal customers as well?
It is. So a lot of our federal customers have Tanium on-prem, so they run a Tanium instance in their data center or within their designated compute cloud. Um, we have a growing number of customers who are migrating to Tanium Cloud for U.S. government, which is a FedRAMP moderate software as a service offering. So everything I've shown today is available in both those environments. We have more that's coming. It's safe to say that the Tanium autonomous endpoint management platform is only getting smarter from here on out. And it's very, as we're starting to structure how we bundle capabilities and position capabilities within customer environments to sort of meet the reporting challenges, meet the compliance challenges, basically establish a presence that's resilient in a digital environment. Um, we're we're very excited about the opportunity this presents to our customers and to the federal government in general.
Awesome, awesome. So, well, how about this, Kyle? Let's move to something a little more fun. Uh, I know we all have our different favorite parts of Tanium. I have my own personal favorite things in Tanium. How about you? What's your favorite capability we have? What do you want to show off that you're always super excited about?
And one thing I like is like a Solaris Unix background, right? So for me, one of the tools that was really interesting that when it came out was Top PS Stat, where I could go in and I could see a lot of process level details. Well, within the Tanium platform, we have uh, a capability suite called that focuses on performance, and so what we can do is within performance, we're allowed to look at different dashboards, we can see different thresholds. We can actually configure things. But what's really interesting is Tanium has the ability, as I walk through performance dashboards, I can actually delve right in to see command line details by connecting directly to an endpoint. And so we'll just, like in this particular case, this endpoint has a performance score of 39. So I can jump in, I can connect to that endpoint. I'm doing this as we speak. And what's really cool is I'm going to get a dashboard of like the hardware performance issues, but I'm also going to get this detail down here that talks about the command line. And it's almost like a top or PS stat or PS command on steroids. I'm going to see all kinds of details, not only how that process started, but also the effect that that process has on this particular machine. Anyway, that's yeah, as sort of a Unix guy background, that's one of the things I like most. It's just a level of fidelity you have with this platform because of again sensors and packages and allows you to see and do things at amazing scale.
Thank you so much for talking to me today. Wonderful conversation. I'm glad we were able to learn more about Tanium autonomous endpoint management as it relates and can assist in generating cyber resilience in the digital world.
Yeah, Alex, thanks for your time, and we're grateful for the opportunity to talk about Tanium's amazing platform. And we look forward to seeing you on your YouTube channel, where you and Jess and Ashley are going to star each week in really interesting shows that focus on Tanium Tech Talks. Again, thank you for your time, and we look forward to seeing what's next.
Thank you so much. And also to all viewers, please come find me on LinkedIn. I love hearing suggestions on what customers would like to see next. What kind of information you'd like to see next, and or how it relates to Tanium capabilities. And as Kyle said, you can find our library of Tanium Tech Talks on Tanium's YouTube channel. And until next time, go Tanium.